Thank you.
Not much left. That's my hair. Those are her other grandparents.
You're on camera. So,
Thank you.
Mother, we're happy to have this chance to interview you to maybe hear some things about you that we don't even know about.
Okay.
So let's start with, what is the date of your birth and where were you born?
I was born May 4th, 1931 in Camden, New Jersey, the home of the RCA Victor.
Oh,
Remember that?
I do.
When they had Victrola,
Victrola?
and records.
Nice. Do you know any other circumstances of your birth? Who was present? Who delivered you? Any
No,
stories about that?
no.
Mm-hmm.
My sister was born at home in Berlin.
Oh, but you were born in a hospital?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What was your mother's full name?
She didn't have a middle name, only Viola Russell.
And your father's full name?
Eugene Alfred Scott. But something very interesting, his mother named another child the same name.
Is that right? Now, I thought only boxers did that.
And I think the doctor helped name my father's name.
Okay. Do you know what year your mother and father were born?
I think my mother was 1904, the same as Bill's father, the same year. And they went to the same school, by the way, for business, for penmanship, and learning to be secretaries. It was a peer school in Pennsylvania. And whether they knew one another, I never knew. And what was the other question?
Well, where were they born?
My mother was born in Russelltown, probably right at home. What was the other question?
And your father, where and when was he born?
He was born in Brooklyn,
Brooklyn, New York.
New York.
Uh-huh. And do you know where your grandparents were born?
Russelltown for my mother's side. My father's side, I don't know too much except that his mother had a boyfriend, and that's how he came to be.
And Russelltown is in
and
what
he
state?
was told the mother was told to part with a boyfriend, that she couldn't marry him.
Any nicknames for you or your family?
Nicknames. My father was Gene. My mother was Vi. My mother always mispronounced my name. She always called me Almira.
Anna Moro, didn't Aunt Mo say that too?
I don't know whether she did or not. I can't remember. But I tried to correct her, but it didn't do anything.
What did your father do for a living?
He was a gas station operator.
For golf.
For Atlantic Refining in Berlin, New Jersey. It was right near a bridge, and then he moved to another station that was a better location, and it was near the school where I went for elementary school.
And he did that his whole career.
And then he went to Pennsylvania and was with Atlantic again, and then moved down the street to Gulf. And he no sooner got in there, and he saw his old gas station blow up. And somebody apparently had a cigarette, and there was grease and fuel in the lubrication.
And that was like an independently owned station, so
Yeah.
so he just rebuilt another one?
No,
Or just repaired it?
The Gulf station was there, and I don't know why he moved, whether it was more money. I find
Okay.
out.
What kind of hours did he work when he ran those?
He worked long hours every day. In fact, he told my sister and I he regretted that he didn't spend enough time with the two of us.
And he was a mechanic too.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did Viola work outside of the home ever?
No, she was a legal secretary for a while, and then I came along, and then Betty came along the next year, and she started keeping books for my father.
Okay. What towns did you live in up to age 20, say?
I think we lived in Oak Lynn in the beginning. Then we moved to Berlin, and we rented a house, and then later they built a house another street over, and I stayed there until I went to college.
Did you know your grandmother and your grandparents very well?
Yes, my grandfather on my mother's side, he died when I was 5 years old with stomach cancer, and I remember they sent us to bed, and I remember looking down the steps and seeing my grandfather being laid out there. I was only 5, but I still have that memory. And then my grandmother lived in Camden with my Aunt Irma, and my mother had a sister, Irma, and a brother, Elmer. And so I used to go over and see my grandmother, Ida, and I sat in the rocking chair that's in my bedroom right now, and I got in it, and I'd say, "This is my chair." I love that rocking chair. So I did get that chair. And my sister and I would go over and visit my grandmother and aunt, and my aunt always made rice pudding for us.
Is that right? And we're having that tonight. Well, the next question is, tell us something about your favorite aunt.
My favorite aunt? Well, I only had, on my mother's side, only one aunt, and she was a favorite, and Betty could never pronounce her name. And I forget what she called her.
No.
I've forgotten. Then on my father's side, there were 3 girls. And I liked Aunt Evelyn. And Dorothy I never saw too much because she moved away. And then there was another aunt that worked lived in Clayton, so I saw her a little bit in Clayton, but then she died early.
Is there any story behind your particular name, Almira Evangeline?
It's my grandmother's name, my father's mother, Evangeline. And I think Henry Longfellow wrote some poetry with my name, not because of me or my grandmother, but my name is in there, the correct spelling, and the Evangeline is in some of his works.
Did you have cousins that you spent time with?
Cousins. Edith and Cliff. We used to go down to them on Saturday, and my mother took bureau drawers and used those in the car to transport us as babies to go down and visit. There was another lady there, Cousin Ella, but she was elderly, so we used to go down and see them, and they're part of family, and Aunt Irma lived with them part of the time also. That's where I learned how to play pinochle. They used to have big groups And we go around, Betty and I go around and see everybody's hand. Another place we went to a lot was Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank was my grandfather's brother. Elias is my grandfather's name. And Uncle Frank, he had a curved pipe, and he would puff at it. And he had the biggest smile on his face whenever there was a large table with all these people playing pinochle. And my Aunt Emma, his wife, she didn't play, so we would sit and spend time with her and also look at all the cards.
Who was the button lady?
The button lady, that would be Uncle Frank's daughter. And they had another one, Harry, and Harry had 2 boys, and they lived in Willowtown, is it? Willow, it's in Pennsylvania.
Do you remember the story when we went to visit the button lady?
Oh yeah.
Tell us that.
You were on a sofa, and somebody left a little bit of noise and air, and she thought it was her old sofa that was squeaking. But she collected antiques and buttons, and she was also a math teacher in Newark. And we spent a lot of time with her because she lived next to her father, Uncle Frank. And they grew grapes, and they had cows, all kinds of vegetables. It was, and pigs. So we had a good time.
You had some farm experience.
In the with a farm. And right across the way is where my mother's family grew up. I think there were 10 boys, and I forget how many girls. I'd have to look at the picture again, but there were a lot of Russells, and they had an ice house, and they used to go down to the lake when it would freeze, and then cut out chunks of ice and put it in their ice house and sell the ice. And they had a lot of horse and buggies. That's how they got around. And they also had a little store. So that's how the grandparents survived.
Tell us about the naughtiest thing you ever did, and what would be the typical punishment you received from your parents?
Oh my.
Too many to choose from?
Were you ever naughty?
I don't remember being bad.
You were the perfect angel.
Well, you were punished sometimes, weren't you?
I don't really remember any.
What about Aunt Betty? You were in
Oh, I can think of something. My mother and father decided to go to New York and leave us home. They thought we were old enough.
How old?
I don't know, maybe 10, something like that. And we decided to make a cake. And it's a cake, I have the recipe today. It's a family recipe. And Betty and I decided we'd eat it all so they wouldn't see it. But I don't think we were punished. I don't remember.
Even Aunt Betty didn't get in trouble?
I don't remember us
Okay.
getting in trouble.
At what age did you first vote, and for which president did you first vote for?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was never allowed to learn how to drive, so it wasn't until I met Dad that I could drive and get a license. So when's voting? 21?
It might have been 21 then.
Yeah, so I don't.
Can't remember who you voted for your first.
I don't remember. I remember Dewey and, but that's later. 21.
Did Did you have a best friend growing up?
Yes, next door we had, her name was Wheezy.
Louise?
From Jefferson's?
Louise?
It was Louise Horton,
Okay.
and it was a nice family next door. The father went to work, but I don't know what he did, but he would do repair watches at night when he got home. But one thing that my sister did, though, because she got in trouble now that I think about it, was they were on a swing and she was above Wheezy, and she started laughing and urinating. So we had to tell the mother to get a shampoo. And the mother took a brush and just wrapped the hair around the finger all over her head, and then would pin all those curls on her head. She had beautiful hair.
Who, Wheezy?
Yeah, Wheezy did.
Did you have to tell the mother that she had shampoo?
Well, Betty told her.
Betty,
What
did
was
she
the
remain your friend?
Oh, yeah.
Wheezy had wee-wee.
what
When
was
did
the,
you lose touch with Wheezy?
Well, when I moved out of, to go to college, then I didn't see anybody after that. And then my family moved over to Pennsylvania, so that was the end of the relationship. And we had a nice neighbor across the way, Uncle Dave and Aunt Loretta. Oh, we had a nice chicken coop and lots of yard for the chickens and the rooster. And we would give the chickens fresh vegetables and corn. And
that you grew in your own garden?
yeah, we had a big garden. It was a double lot. And my father would hand plow and plant everything, and my mother canned, put things up in jars. But one day, and we sold eggs in the neighborhood too. And one day my father shot what he thought was a fox. There was something killing the chickens.
It was a bunny?
And I don't know. I don't think a bunny would
The
bother
neighbor's
the
dog?
chickens. Do you think?
No.
We don't think Pop would have shot a bunny, no.
But he almost hit my neighbor.
Oh, boy.
He had his farm area across the street. So,
Tell about someone who had a big influence in your life.
I don't know. I guess my parents, I can't think of anybody in particular.
What was your favorite meal your Viola would make for you?
One thing she would make, and I didn't like, when she did this, she used chicken fat for her pie crust.
Really? Okay.
It's not very tasty. And I like to nibble on the pie crust, and of course we'd like to lick the bowl from the making cakes and things like that. Of course now they tell you can't do that, but we survived.
Did you use chicken fat when you made your cake when they were gone?
What?
Did you use chicken fat when you made the cake when they were gone?
Oh no, I didn't use chicken fat in that. We just used eggs and flour and
Is that the milk cake?
yeah.
Mother, who was your first boyfriend? And tell us about your first date.
Probably not to college.
Mm-hmm.
College. Because to go to school, I had to get on a bus and go about 30 miles. So it wasn't too great. Well, there was one boyfriend during high school. I forgot about him.
Was he cute?
Yes.
He remembers that.
How come it didn't work out with him?
Well, he lived too far away from me,
Okay.
work anything, and I didn't see anybody in Berlin that I was interested in. Now, one thing that David, Betty's son, was amazed that we never had any blacks in our town at all. He couldn't get over that. So it wasn't until high school that I was exposed to them, and I had some very nice black folks. There was one particular girl that I really liked, but then she got married, and I think, yeah, she graduated, but after she graduated, she,
What was your first favorite TV show and your favorite subject in school?
of course, math. We didn't have TV for a long time.
Yeah?
My mother objected to having TV come in the house, so I may have been off to college before they had a TV. I don't remember.
What was the biggest problem you remember having in junior high or high school?
Biggest problem.
Was it the cute boy? Was it the cute boy?
No.
No.
How would you typically spend?
I went to high school with the fellow that was the CEO for Southwest. I was in all his classes. Very amusing, and a football player. And he just died January 3rd this year.
What was his name?
Herb Callaway.
Did you have an interest in Herb?
No, but he was funny, and he ran his business like that, very comical. With when you would fly them, they would have little different jokes and ideas that were clever from him. He went on to Yale and then moved to San Antonio.
When you
But
went
you
to
know, where I went to high school, I told you 30 miles away. It was hard to keep up any friends up that way because of the distance.
when you went to college, tell which college you went to and why.
Well, I tried to get in Trenton. I thought I wanted to do something with music. And of course, the only thing I did was play the piano, so that was not enough. And so I couldn't get in Trenton, but I got into Beaver, and I had a wonderful time. I think college life is one of the highlights of living.
What made it so wonderful? What did you enjoy about college?
Just being around people, taking all kinds of courses, learning lots of things that you didn't think you'd ever learn. I also went out for riflery, and I became a champion in the shots.
Drinking shots.
Wow.
You
Tequila
know,
or rum?
with the rifle.
Oh.
So there's a cup up there with my name on it.
At Beaver?
Yeah, well now it's called Arcadia.
How did you come to choose your major?
Oh, I wanted math right from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even as a child, did you think that's what you wanted to do?
Well, it was either math or music.
Mhm.
That's what the different tests would say.
What was the Glee Club?
Oh, I went out for Glee Club and made it. Some people didn't make it, but I made it, and I sang alto, and I had a great time even I was in another choir that went to churches to sing. And then the other, we would go to Lehigh, other men colleges around and have
Concerts?
singing programs. And we even had Fred Waring. Anybody know Fred Waring?
You invented the blender?
Who? I don't know if that's part of the family or not, but he was a talented man that wrote music. What's the matter?
Give your glass to Ann.
Do you wanna take
Give your
another
glass
drink,
to
Mother?
Ann.
And we sang with him, and he was very famous, but you probably don't even, you probably never heard of him.
What's his name?
He had a place,
Fred Weary. Weary?
W-A-R-I-N-G.
Oh, Waring.
He had a place, is it Shawnee? In Pennsylvania, I forget where. But he had a place, a resort.
So after you graduated, then what?
My first job was down in Clayton. And some of my family lived in Clayton, but I never did go see them. I lived with an elderly lady that made breakfast for me every morning. And, but I was required to eat dinner out, and I found a restaurant called Blue Plate. And it was very good home-cooked food. And on weekends, I would ride home. But I didn't go home for a few weeks anyway. But then Dad was in the elementary school, and it was on the same grounds. And the high school was on one end and the elementary. And some lady over in the elementary end kept telling Dad, you ought to get interested in that nice young lady. And so anyway, I got to ride with him, and he never got over it, but we go over the bridge for a quarter. And he would think I'd have to pay for it. And I didn't even give him gas money.
Was that his first tip off that you might be cheap?
So,
Did he ask?
Thrifty.
he had to go home anyway, and it wasn't that far. We weren't that far apart.
Did he ask you for money?
No.
Was he just trying to
Never-
get his wallet
he
out?
Never said anything. And he got something in his eye on one of the trips back and forth, and he asked me to put drops in his eyes.
Oh yeah, he wanted something.
And somehow I got the nice feeling, I think I like this young man.
He wanted
And I forget what he got, whether it's sand or dirt. But we didn't go out for at least another couple weeks.
At least.
Were you thinking about him then?
He got a double date. He got one for me, and he had his girl, not me.
Oh,
And
really?
So the next day he said, I don't like the girl I took out. I think I would rather go out with you.
Were you glad he said that?
Yeah.
Did you not like your date?
Yeah, and then we had to be careful if we sat in the car and necked. We couldn't do it in town because there were too many of the high school kids and so forth. So we used to take a ride out to the cornfields. And
That's
then
pretty private out there.
nobody could see us. It was only necking.
Are you sure?
Did you like the way he kissed?
Yeah.
Well, what happened next with that?
Well, it was November, and I started school there in September probably, so it was November when we decided we were going to get married.
How did he propose?
How long were they dating?
Oh gosh, I don't whether I remember.
Wait, so you dated for 2 months
Yeah,
before deciding to get married?
yeah.
That's some good necking.
And we got married in June.
Wow.
So,
How did he
How old
propose?
were you?
24.
let me see, I was 18 when I graduated from school. It's probably 19 or 20, maybe 19.
Well, you went to college.
Oh,
23.
that's right. 18 would be high school.
High school.
Yeah.
Right, 23.
I graduated in 53, so it would be 53 sometime, and that would be
22.
22.
So how did he propose? Do you remember?
Just words, but I don't remember. I don't remember what words.
Did you have to think about it or yes right away?
No, I had to think about it because
Your parents.
because my parents, they knew he was Catholic. We were going through Fairmont Park in Philadelphia, and there were crosses in the park, and I don't know what was going on, but my parents turned around and asked what religion he was. Well, I knew I was going to have trouble because he's Catholic, and we had agreed that we wouldn't discuss religion any more than what we had, and he had to write letters to my parents, and he said, you know what, when you're raised as a little baby, you are raised their faith, and you don't have a choice. And he just so happened to be Catholic, and his mother was very strong Catholic, but the father was Protestant. So that's what happened. But I was just telling Kaylin today that he would take Ann to, well, he took the boys to church for a while. Then the last time he went to church, he took Ann, and she had a nice dress on, but I didn't realize it, but she had a hole in her pants. But he said, I'm not going to take the children to church anymore. And we decided that they would make up their own minds what they wanted to be, that we didn't want to make a decision for any of the children what religion they should be.
So when did you go back to him and say yes? How much after?
Sometime after that, but I don't know exactly what time. But I decided that I'd rather be with him.
What was it like telling your mom and dad that you were going to marry him?
Well, my mother objected right away. And in fact, my father came down to Pittman just to take us out and have a meal and discuss it. And my father said that he has, because he's married to my mother, that he has to go along with her thoughts. And that he didn't mind that we were going to get married, but he had to stand by. But they did come to the wedding and left just before we all came out of the church. And we got married in a church where the, what's that famous family?
Von Trapp?
Von Trapp.
Where?
They went to that church.
Where?
In St. Matthias in Bala Kenwood.
Pennsylvania?
In what?
Yeah, West
Pennsylvania.
Village.
Yes.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, in
Yes.
Pennsylvania,
West
not far from where their apartment was. And it wasn't until Russ and Bob were maybe 5, maybe 8 and 5, something like that, that his father encouraged us to go back to see my father, which I'm glad we did. We went over to the station and had a chat with him, and then we went over to see my mother the next day. And in fact, I think my mother really, they both liked my father better than Uncle Dave, but it was never brought out, but I could tell. I'll tell you why, because they didn't push that their kids go to college. And Dad and I pushed that the children should go to college. And I think that's why they appreciated Bill and myself better, because of that situation.
So you reconnected with your parents when Russ and I were how old?
I'd say about, what are you, about 3 years difference?
Yeah, 2.
2? Well, I would say maybe 6 and 8, something like that. We went over to the station.
Okay.
Didn't you go and see Granny and your mom and Dad, but Dad would stay outside?
Oh, that's my grandmother.
Oh, that was your grandmother.
My mother's mother, Ida, Cain, C-A-I-N. She stayed out in the car when my Aunt Irma would bring her over to the house so they could see Betty and myself. And of course, Aunt Irma wanted to talk with Mother. But my mother and her mother had an argument over dishes. My mother picked out some dishes because her father asked her to buy the dishes for Ida, and Ida didn't like them.
Now we're,
So they didn't speak, and she would sit out in front of the house, and Betty and I would go out and entertain her.
Uncle Morton and Aunt Alberta at your wedding?
Yes, he stood for me, and Uncle Mort had an Atlantic gas station in Haddonfield in New Jersey, not far, and so they met at a fair, the Berlin Fair, where they have rides and things, and it's an annual thing, and Uncle Mort and my father met, and the 4 of them used to spend a lot of time together, and in fact, he used to come at Christmas time with bells, and he'd pretend he was Santa Claus. We were little, so we get so excited. And whenever he came, Betty and I would stuff his shoes with paper. And then we used to go down to their house, and we'd have meals, and we, go back and forth socially. But when this came up, my mother, of course, didn't want to go, but she did end up coming and seeing the wedding.
Now, especially since you didn't have much of a courtship with Dad, after 6 months and a year into your marriage, did you feel like you'd made the right decision?
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
He was a perfect gentleman.
What did you like about Dad?
He's a real gentleman. He used to open the door for me.
And how long did that last?
I honeymooned the whole time, almost 63 years.
No, I mean, how long did he open the door for you?
Oh, not too long.
What else did he do that was a real gentleman?
He always liked children. He wanted 5 children.
What'd you think of that?
I didn't mind. It turned out that we did have our 5.
Would you like to take a drink of water?
I'm all right.
If you could
And
return,
he enjoyed being with the 5 children. He really had a wonderful time with them.
what was the most difficult thing about Dad?
Trying to get him to eat normal. Because I wanted my children to be able to eat everything like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he said, "Oh, okay, when the first one comes along, we'll see, we'll work it out." But it never worked out.
If you could return to your youth,
And one thing he said, if the children do something wrong, you punish right away. I don't want you to tell me when I get home and let me do the punishment. He said, that happened in my house and I didn't like it. So I did do that for him.
mm-hmm. If you could return to your youth, is there anything that you would have done differently or wished was different?
I probably would have liked to gotten into more music rather than math, but it turned out all right. I always liked music.
What's your favorite instrument?
I never learned any except the piano. See, that was the problem. To go to Trenton, and they have a wonderful music program, but you have to be talented. And I was nothing.
How did it come to be that you moved to Florida?
I was just going to ask.
Because Dad didn't like getting colds all winter long.
Well, had his parents moved down first?
Yes, they moved down, and then he wanted to go down too, because he got tired of the cold weather. Well, Poppy's fingers, even with gloves on, they were white. He was that cold. And of course, he was older too. And so when they wanted to move down, we decided we would too.
So Fort Lauderdale because they were already there? Or it was a good opportunity?
It was about the same time that we went down. I kind of forget. Of course, Edna had a nervous breakdown, and so she wasn't too good, and so they wanted to be close to us.
Well, she spent time in the South Florida hospital.
Yeah, she did.
The war had a profound effect on Dad. Did Pearl Harbor and the fighting of World War II have any major effect in your family?
He was there after Pearl Harbor,
Right.
and he was in the Philippines, and the Japanese would hide in the hills. And after the war was settled, they begged the Japanese people to come down because they didn't believe that it was done. And so he helped with, with that situation. And he did, he had flat feet, so he wasn't in infantry. So he would go get the meat or food supplies, or he would get the ammunition. He did drop it on his foot, and he was in the hospital in the Philippines. And then when he went for supplies, he'd always pick out the meat that would be what he would want. the roast and things like that.
But did the war and the preparation of the war and
No.
did it have an effect for you and your family? You didn't even know Dad then.
No. No, I don't think he was affected by the war. He was very proud that he did go in.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wanted to come home the fast way, but they decided to have him go through the Panama Canal, and he was disappointed with that. And then, when he came back, he went back to review his high school studies because he was not a very good student. And so he had to make the grades better. And when he got into college, he did fine.
What were your greatest joys as a mother?
Probably bringing the children to the world.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And raising them.
What was the best advice your mother and father ever gave you?
Don't buy anything if you can't afford it. Wait till you have enough money and can afford it, then buy it. That's one thing they would tell me.
That's good.
And that's the way they were when we were growing up. We did it without a lot of things because they went through depression, and so I understood the way they were doing things, and that's the way. And I'd hoped that I imparted some of that to you children.
Well, what is the best advice you think you could still partake to all of us?
I'd say invest all you can. That Trump treats you. I have annuities, and it turned out I have to use them within 5 years after Dad died. I have to take the money out, and it turned out that Trump returned every bit of the annuities and was able to give them to me.
Any other bits of advice?
Love your family because they soon grow up fast.
Mm-hmm.
But you all gather together all the time. We're very proud of the way you're continuing the family relationship.
Which of the kids gave you the most trouble?
I knew I was in the wrong seat.
She said that.
She climbed out of the bedroom window without me knowing it, and broke the window.
It'd have been okay if she didn't break the window, huh?
Well, I didn't like the idea of her sneaking out.
Well, I had to climb into my bedroom window because I locked myself out of the house.
Well, I didn't know that.
Maybe you broke the window.
Other questions, family?
How did you pick out 6061? Southwest 8th
It
Street.
was almost by where Hubert.
How did you pick out the house?
Well, there's 4 bedrooms. We knew we wanted 4, and we had to put 2 boys in one, 2 boys in the other, and Ann had her own. They didn't realize it, but if they started fighting with one another, I could hear them through the vents of the house, even if I were in the bedroom. So I had my ears
She could hear
for the other end of the house.
Who fought the most?
But they were good children.
Who fought the most?
Who fought the most?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody has to fight somewhere. I fought with my sister. That's just part of growing up, I think.
What are some of your best memories of Aunt Betty growing up?
I don't know. We're just just pals with one another. We just love each other so much. I'm
Any
looking
games
for,
you played?
huh?
Any games you played?
Oh, we played marbles, make a circle and play marbles. We weren't allowed to do any sewing on Sunday. I don't think we were allowed to listen to a radio either. And we didn't have that many toys. I remember being 5 years old and I got a doll and I took the eyes out because I wanted to know how the eyes worked. Why did it go up and down? So, and that was next door to us, and we were right across the street from our family doctor, and nice families there. We really had a wonderful childhood on that street, and then we moved from there. And my grandmother had a candy store up the street, so we'd go up and get those licorice pipes. They were about that long with the little thing that, like they put the tobacco in, because we liked licorice. And but we played with our neighbors who were older, and we were the children. And we put little curls, you know, when they scrape wood and it would curl up. We'd put those curls in her hair.
Now, I have a question, Mother. I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but when Granny and Pop came down to visit us at 6061, we would always hide the liquor
That's right.
in the
Because my mother
big
and
closet.
father,
Why is that?
but they did not believe in drinking, and my father would get some of them as gifts at the gas station. My mother would go to the kitchen and pour them all down the drain.
So, what do you think they would have done if they
And
would have
then when
found
she
the
found
liquor?
out in February, the year she died, she sat up in the bed and said, I never drank, I never smoked, and why do I have cancer? She wanted to know. She had ovarian cancer, but she had an abortion. So whether that had something to do with it or not, I don't know. And then they would have had a boy.
Wow, you know that.
Yeah.
Before or after?
Yeah, my father told me.
Was it
Is
medically?
it before you?
I think she went to the hospital. She's, she said 2's enough.
Oh, it was the third.
So I don't know whether that had something to do with it or not.
What is the best place you ever traveled?
With them
Just
or,
any,
Any place.
or with Papa.
any place.
Pop. The best place is Antarctica.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
All ice, water, seals, whales, penguins, seabirds. I saw the condor bird. That's a huge bird. And it's nature unspoiled.
Who did you go to Antarctica with?
With Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fortunately, he liked traveling, and he'd say, "You sure we can go? We have enough money?" I said, "We're fine. I wanted to travel too." I said, I'll manage. I don't have to worry. I will work it out."
So you handled all the finances.
Yes. He couldn't even understand any of it.
You're right about that.
And he had a master's degree.
And I know. And I would get on the phone and make some investments. He didn't care. But he was concerned that I would have enough money to live. he doesn't, of course, doesn't know, but I am working it so that I'm giving you even more than what he had planned. It's because I want to, and I hope he can pass it on.
How much did he still have in his wallet?
Not much, because he never would use it. When we go to a restaurant, I always had to get my wallet out.
Is that a payback for all the times he took you across the bridge?
No, he never brought his wallet out. He'd hide it. And I found some money in the some of the clothing went after he died.
Wow.
You find any candy in there too?
No. No.
How much did you find?
Not that much, maybe $100. Enough that I had to go look. Before I could put it in the, those bins.
So he had a little stash going on.
Yes, he was. Because he liked to go out Friday night with his friends and have beer. So that's why he would have a little extra, so that if he wanted to have more beer, he had it.
What'd you think of that?
I got used to it. I didn't like it so much, because sometimes he came home a little too much.
So he had more than 2 beers.
Yes. He had more than 2 beers. And then he would come to the bed and he would go like this. And he'd wake me up. So one day I decided I was going to wait till he got in bed and do the same thing, and my jaw got back in place. And it didn't bother him.
When did he start wearing a man gown?
He always did for almost the whole time, because he didn't want to have any bottoms on.
Easy access?
So I said, if you're going to do that, I'm going to look for a man gown. Because, the kids are getting bigger and you need to have clothes on.
Just a big t-shirt?
What was it like? How many years did it take for you to move up to Lady Lake because he didn't want to leave his friends?
I think we decided right away,
All
because
right, I thought that was the thing. He didn't want to leave his principal friends.
no, because they were all moving out
It's hotter
too.
too.
Yeah, they were moving or dying.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, he didn't mind, but he stopped going out on Friday night when we
Right.
moved up to Lady Lake. So that was one change. But I think he realized that he couldn't keep doing that. We would go down to, not Lowe's, the Home Depot Friday night. Instead of going out and having beer, we go down and shop for something for the house.
Do you have any regrets?
Regrets? No. Everything is beautiful.
Can you think of any precarious situations you got in your travels?
Yes, in the desert, Death Valley. Your dad decided to take a shortcut. Before we left, I said, I saw a gas station. Don't you think we ought to stop and get gas? No, it's not going to be that far. Well, we were on empty, and we came in on fumes. I got out of the car, and I sort of waved a car coming and asked if they could help us to get out of Death Valley. And Betty and Dave were in the back seat. And she had an apple and a package of crackers, and I had nothing. So if we had to stay there, we would not be able to eat, because there's nothing around in Death Valley. And followed this car, and pretty soon they stopped, and they said they were lost too. So, I don't know. God must have been with us because we got to get to the right road, got to the first gas station on fumes, really.
I think we were on fumes on the way up here before Bob finally
Yes.
got gas.
But this one waits till the last minute to get gas.
Is that when you decided to join 3
I've got gas.
Mom, who do you think Dad's best
And
friend was?
another place was in Oregon. Thought he'd take a shortcut through a lot of woods, and it was not for cars.
Off-roading.
Uncle Russ, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Mom, who do you think Dad's best friend was?
The what?
Dad's best friend.
His best friend? Well, he had a very good friend that died of cancer of the bones.
Is that my middle name?
And that's where Russ got his middle name. He was really taken back with him.
This was young.
Yes, he was very young, had a family, and
Somebody he'd met in the war.
a high school friend.
Okay.
Yeah, John Boswell, I think it was, in Fort Lauderdale, or I mean, Lady Lake, I think Artie across the street, and he made a comment. He wished he had talked to her before he died. We went away, we came back, and found he died. That was another close friend
Artie.
that he really liked.
But what about when we were in Fort Lauderdale? Ed Cannon?
Who?
Ed Cannon?
Well, there were several he liked. Who was it?
George Ferris?
Yeah, George Ferris, probably. Another one.
Link?
Yeah,
Link.
Joe Link. Yeah, he had a lot of friends.
Mom, how did you and Pop decide to name your 5 children?
How do we decide? Well, we decided Russell because
Right.
of his father was Russell. My family name was Russell. And the John came from a high school friend that died. And the second one, Bob, I don't really remember why we chose Bob.
But Reynolds from the family name.
Oh, yeah, the family names, yeah. And I always liked Tom, and I said,
Thank you.
touchdown Mauger, TD, and he's Thomas David.
Are you saying you like Tom better than Bob?
No. No, that's how we got him.
Oh.
I came up with touchdown Mauger. And then we had to put in the stuff after the T and the D.
And then he came up with BS Mauger.
And then David, and David is Uncle Dave, really.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember how we got Bob. I've forgotten. And then next it was Anne.
Another question?
Well, you did have a miscarriage in between.
Yeah, I had a miscarriage. She gets Elizabeth from Bill's grandmother, Elizabeth Reynolds. And we both liked Anne. And then Bill, I wanted to name after Papa. But he didn't want that. He said he grew up with 3 Bills in his family. His grandfather, his uncle,
And him.
and his name. He said it was very confusing.
Well, and then there was Uncle Billy's uncle too.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, oh, we have to have a Bill. So I got that wish.
Did you always want 5 kids?
Yeah, he wanted 5, yes.
So he won that argument. Who won most of the arguments?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember that many.
Uh-huh.
Mother won all the financial ones.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, he didn't care about it.
Either that or he didn't know about it.
No, he had no idea what any of it meant.
Mhm.
And he had his little stash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had his money when he wanted it.
What were things you all would argue about most commonly?
Well, I remember when the children were little, I tried to get him to eat some of the food he never ate. But it didn't work. I just gave up. I decided whoever you marry, you can't change him. You might as well leave him alone.
There's another piece of advice for
Yeah.
you.
You're right, you can't change him.
Did you guys argue a lot when you were younger?
I don't remember too much. We probably did, but I don't remember.
Mom, do you know what a bucket list is?
Yes.
Do you have items on your bucket list still?
Well, I always wanted to go to, I forget where it is now.
That's a good place to go.
It's off the coast of,
Fiji, Galapagos. It's an island.
an island, Darwin?
Galapagos.
Galapagos? Yeah.
I thought you went there.
No, we never got there. And
Really?
he'd say, I'll take you to another Galapagos. And that was in Mexico. And he says, I'll show you all the birds, the blue-footed birds and all that. He said, it's the same thing as if we do the other.
Any other bucket list things that you haven't gotten
That
to?
was the only thing that I wanted to do, and I never got to do it.
Mhm.
The
Nothing like
Galapagos Islands, they're not that far away, are they?
No, but I'm too old to do that stuff.
nothing like parasailing or
No. He always wanted his boys to learn how to sail. He was disappointed they didn't go to FSU to learn how to sail.
Mother, what does your shirt say and what does that mean?
And you come to Callaway, you put the windows down and smell the pines.
Good.
And do you do that now?
Yep.
We
Yep.
did.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've sent a wonderful precedent for us, you and Dad, and you've grown a wonderful family to be a part of. And we thank you for sharing your life like you have in this interview, which was an hour and 8 minutes.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Okay.
You performed very well.
Well, thank you.
We love you, Mom.
And I want to know who's the next victim.
I think he might be talking.
Probably Uncle Russ.
Yep.
No, that won't happen.
Mom, do you have a favorite holiday? Oh, is that Aunt
Here.
Into that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a few favorites questions.
Why did Aunt Irma never get married?
She probably.
She had boyfriends, but she never. She worked in a drugstore for many years, and then she would live with different relatives that needed help. And she died here in Fort Lauderdale.
How,
I think she was 73.
Memorial Hospital.
Yeah,
Now, where was Russelltown?
she had breast cancer.
Mom, where was Russelltown?
Russelltown is below Berlin, and it's named that because of all the Russell family there.
So I couldn't find it on a map.
No, it's unique. It's below Tangier. You probably can find Tangier.
2 L's?
Who?
2 L's?
2 L's in Russelltown?
Yes,
2 words or 1 word?
it's all one word, Russelltown.
When was the last time you were there?
But it was, I'm trying to think, didn't some of us go down there?
You took us when we were, I think I was in high school when you took us.
Oh, I think you've been down there since.
Where did you bury
I
the
don't-
ashes?
Oh, I think maybe when
Of
Granny
Uncle Mort
died or
Granny and Pop.
somebody died.
Oh, I didn't go.
I don't know.
That was the
can't
last time I
remember.
went.
Did you
showed us-
bury some ashes in a cemetery somewhere? You backed up and,
Oh, that's Uncle Mort,
okay.
and in Alberta's ashes. His are already buried. And Betty and I went over to Merchantville, and she had her big van, so I had her back it up so nobody could see us. There were people shining their cars in there, and we didn't dig very deep because it was hard to dig. So I buried the urn, because that's what he wanted. What could I do?
Well, Mom, what are some of your favorites? Like your favorite food of all time?
I like so many things.
Anything
Lobster?
seafood.
You like lobster?
Yeah, I like lobster, and I like a lot of vegetables. I don't have any particular one.
What was your favorite meal that your mom cooked?
Where?
What was your favorite meal that your mom cooked? Or your parents?
Well, you knew what day it was. We'd have chip beef on wash day, and I still have it because Russ likes it and I like it. She made chickens. She would roast chickens because we had chickens in the backyard.
She had good sloppy Joe.
Yeah, she always made sloppy Joe, but not really while I was home. But she liked making pies for my father, and he liked some of her cakes. She always had a balanced meal. I can't think of anything that was favorite.
How about your favorite holiday?
Maybe Christmas with the children around.
Did you have any holiday traditions?
The Christmas tree and the presents around for the
Blue lights.
and Pop only wanted blue lights.
What about wrapping boxes and keeping the back boxes wrapped?
Yes, I do that,
Yeah.
but I've stopped now because I just give checks. But I wrap the lids,
Yes.
not the other part, just the lids, and then use them over and over.
And I think you did that with wrapping paper. You took the wrapping paper off
Yeah,
That's what
real careful and then used it.
yeah. I was
You do that with the Polly-O container.
We didn't always use wrapping paper either. We always had the cartoons.
Oh, yes, if they went to a birthday party, I would wrap it in
Comics.
comics.
Do you remember
Oh, I
the year
remember
that you
that.
wrapped, I think it was the sewing machine pedal.
Oh, that was with Aunt Irma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in somebody's gift.
right. Yeah, accidentally.
Yep.
And Aunt Irma, she was undoing her packages, not usually do one at a time. And she started in and she said, "Slippers!"
What
Andy?
injuries do you remember of your kids having? What injuries
What injuries?
do you remember all of us?
Well, she had a broken collarbone because of Howie. You had a bad knee because of Howie. You played
Broken
football.
kneecap.
Football, the kneecap, the growth area. And Tom, Football. Flag football.
Warm-ups.
Tackle football.
Warm-ups.
Warm-ups, broken arm?
Tackle football.
I don't think anybody else was injured.
I had a broken collarbone.
I was gonna say, didn't.
Yeah.
You
he-
said
preschool.
that, but I don't remember.
He had one before I did, because
yeah.
I used his sling and it was too small.
Really?
Yes.
How did you have a broken collarbone?
I was on a merry-go-round.
Oh,
Preschool.
yes. At the nursery, you're right. He was on one of those merry-go-rounds and he fell off. That's right, I forgot about that.
Do you remember making our clothes, our shirts?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got store-bought now.
No.
I was telling,
Not true.
I was telling,
I did.
Marissa and Jessica.
Kaylin that we first moved to Florida, your father's salary was $5,000
A week?
A year.
a year.
Now, did you make any of the clothes from the drapes that Julie
No.
Andrews did in the
No,
Sound of Music?
not from drapes. I used to go to sewing classes.
But you made drapes out of sheets for me.
Some what?
In our first home, you took sheets and you made our drapes for our first home. in our
Yeah,
bedroom.
right. Yeah.
They're beautiful. I hated to leave them there.
What was your first job?
First job, I went to teach algebra and plane geometry and algebra 2 in Clayton, New Jersey.
Was that
Did you
before or
work at a
after
restaurant?
What?
Did you ever
You
work
were
at
a
a
waitress,
restaurant?
right?
Yeah, you were at a restaurant.
And Dad
You
cut
were a
pies?
waitress first, Mother.
Dad
Were you a
cut
waitress?
pies?
I was a waitress during college at a famous Italian restaurant. My first day, I had the tray up and I slipped on something and went all the way down. My head was almost at the trash can. And I got up very quietly, looked around real quick and moved on.
Talent.
And then I also was a waitress down the shore, and I used to learn how to stack plates up my arm. And there were some famous restaurants down in Atlantic City. Wildwood. I was in Wildwood. Bill Haley, remember him?
Yes.
He was entertaining there then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory of Pop Pop other than the necking?
You really want to know?
Good, come back, Mom.
No, we don't.
I was hoping to do something appropriate.
I asked cousin Dave for some questions, and that was his first question: was Uncle Bill a good lover? And then he said, "I don't know a lot about Granny's side of the family. I remember a sawmill and carpenters, but not much else. You know anything about a saw?
Saw?
Mill and carpenters, or a sawmill?
Yes, the old mill up in Pennsylvania. We used to go to see the entertainers. Yeah, we would go see Mule Train. Who was the one that did that? We went to see him. We went to a lot of nightclubs
And you went to
and
sporting
basketball
events.
games.
Did you drink when you went to these events?
A little bit. I wasn't a big drinker.
What is your favorite drink?
Alcohol.
I think Jameson at one time was, but now I don't drink anymore.
Limoncello.
Oh, I still drink a little limoncello.
I think you
Someone's
didn't.
playing the cello.
You didn't answer Brad's question.
Yeah.
I said, do you really
That's
want
the
to
second
know?
one. That's the second question.
Mom, I don't know if you heard the question. What's your favorite memory of Pop Pop that has nothing to do with the cornfields?
Or any of that.
Right.
he's just a kind, loving person.
Uh-huh. No.
Who taught us the birds and the bees?
Nobody.
Somebody you gave us a book.
Did we?
Yeah, you gave us a book. Said, "Do you have any questions?"
I didn't
Like,
get
why
that
did you give me
book.
this book?
I didn't get that book. Did you get
I
that book?
don't
Yep.
remember a book.
I like Tom's answer. Do you have any questions? Why did you give us this book?
I didn't get the book.
Now, if I did the math right, you would have been married 65 years on June 12th.
Right.
And
Yeah, we had a long time together.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your first date? Well, it was a double date. What was your
First date was a double date.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I don't even remember.
When were you thinking of him on that date?
Not really.
That was after.
I was
Sounds like he was.
I was concentrating on my date because I didn't even know him.
Uh-huh.
and then your first date with him was at a basketball game, right? With just Papa,
Uh,
a high school basketball game, I think.
I don't know what we did first date.
I think I remember him telling me it was a basketball game.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to go to the cornfields?
That was the only place they could
Probably,
go.
probably the both of us, because we were aware of all the children that we would be teaching.
So after the double date, he was driving you home and said, I rather would go out with you than the one that I went out with.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So apparently he had been listening to everything I had to say in the back seat.
The backseat.
He was driving.
What kind of car did he have?
I think a Ford.
Marissa and I pulled up his first car for
Yes.
her once. It was a blue.
Well, he talked about some car he had that was unusual.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
which one?
car.
Oh, a Jordan. That?
Yes.
Yeah, he had
Jordan.
an old Jordan that belonged to Mama Parish.
Keep an eye out for one of those.
In fact, the clock that's in the house now was Mama Parish's, and I want to let you know that Mama Parish is the one that started us with AT&T.
Thank you, Mama Parish.
And I now have 5,010 shares to divide with you 5 children. And Dad and I only had to buy 14. All the rest happened with growth.
So did you inherit those?
Yes.
You inherited those AT&T shares.
Yeah, we only had to buy 14.
Wow.
And I told my stockbroker, I said, you complain about having too many. But I said, I only bought 14. And it's just because of the breakup of the Bells, and then they would split. And
I thought you got some from Poppy.
yes, he got some. He had some too.
And
But
then Uncle Bill.
they went from Mama Parish to Poppy. But she's the one that started this because she married a wealthy man from Chicago. And Alicia has my dishes that were hers. And of course the clock's there that I'm going to put in Bob's house. That's the place where everybody meets. I thought that's an appropriate place.
How did you get along with his parents?
Fine. Fine.
What advice would you give to people for holding a long marriage, for staying in a long-lasting marriage?
Yes and no.
Well, she just
Cornfields.
she just
Plant
mentioned
corn.
you can't change someone.
Yeah.
And what, there was something else.
What's that?
Let her answer the question.
Yeah. What else? I don't know what she wants to do.
Gosh,
Oh yeah, don't spend money on something if you don't have it.
yeah, well, that's one thing. If you don't have enough money to buy something, you do without.
That's great advice, Mama.
And there was another one that Debbie reminded me. We just had a good time with the family, I'll tell you. That's traveling. We enjoy traveling together.
Yeah. Doing things together, you would say?
Yeah, right.
Has anyone seen the picture of the 5 generations?
Mm-hmm.
You have it with you?
I have it on my phone. I'll go and get it if you want me to.
Yeah, the oldest one was Mama Rourke, and she was blind and 98, still living. And then there was Mama Parrish, and then she had Poppy, and then Poppy had Bill, and then when we got married, then we had Russ. So that's our 5 generations.
Mom, do you
She
remember?
was married to a pharmacist, Harry Mauger, but I don't know what happened. They got a divorce, and she married a Palmer from Chicago, and he was very wealthy. So that's how she got started with the stock market.
So Mama, by far you are the most experienced parent in the room. Motherhood is something you have a lot of experience with. So what parenting advice would you pass on?
Love your children.
It's a good one.
It's a pretty smile, too.
Yeah.
I had a good time raising all of them.
Some
Even
gave
the
you
one-
more problems than others.
Even the ones that caught the rugs on fire and broke the windows.
Oh, I forgot about that. They said it. Bob and Russ set a rug on fire in our house.
I never did.
And
While you were away.
and I had a babysitter there.
Look, I think that trumps me going out a window.
What happened, Bob?
Russ and I had a pyromaniac stage where they couldn't punish us bad enough to break it. We also started a fire in the kitchen garbage can. We burnt down a neighbor's tree. I wouldn't say, it's too bad he walked out. I wouldn't say that he led me any more than I led him. He was older, and I was young enough that I was going to be maybe following his, but I didn't stop him. And we even, set the rug on fire, and that Mom and Dad were out, and we got to know the hose that night.
I think inside.
How
don't
long
know.
after
He's
they
out
came
of
home did you
spanking
tell me
practice.
what happened?
No, he didn't.
I was asleep, and I got woken up by what we called the hose. I was on a bunk bed, upper bunk bed, and I was trying to get as far close to the far wall so the hose couldn't quite reach me. But we were punished pretty severely.
You know this stuff that goes around the refrigerator doors?
Yes.
That's what I used.
Did you stop after that?
I think we stopped after that. Russ, we were talking about the pyromaniac stage where we set the neighbor's tree on fire and the kitchen garbage can and then the rug in the
Oh, in the
bedroom.
okay. At 11:48.
Right. And I was trying to remember, who was the instigator of that, you or me?
Probably both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, what are some of the things you used to do to save money?
Eat at home.
I don't know.
Well, like you would do your own trash service. Your own trash service,
I
right?
didn't pay for
The plantation trash
plantation
bags.
trash bags.
No, because I took the trash to work.
Well, and we didn't eat out.
Well,
We didn't eat out until
Until
Bill,
Bob went away.
until I went away.
And then
Oh,
she made
we
your
went-
clothes.
We
We used to
went
go
out.
to
I got my
Branch
spot.
House on Wednesdays.
Well, you know, as I told you, $5,000 a year, that was,
For a family of
Slim Pickens.
and it didn't go
We
up
go to
too much.
Morrison's for birthdays and
Mom, I heard that you forgot about Uncle Bill's birthday one year.
Yes, I did. He was 16. And everybody's at the table, and he didn't come. So I went back to the bedroom, and he says, my birthday today.
I think he said, where are we going to go out to eat? And you
Yeah, so
said
I
we were
said,
just going to have
And
hamburgers.
you come
lunch."
out and have dinner, and we'll go out tomorrow night for your birthday. Yeah, I did forget one birthday.
Do you remember the order of who sat where at our dinner table? At 60,
Around the bar.
61, around the bar.
I really don't think I could tell it.
So you sat closest to the phone by the dishwasher.
Right.
Then me, then Dad, then Ann, then was it Tom?
Yes.
I thought it was in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Tom and then who?
Russ.
Russ and Bob.
Russ, Tom, Bob, I think.
I forget.
That's what it was.
Did Pop-Up ever work over the summer?
Oh, he
Yes.
had 3 jobs.
He worked for a refrigeration company where he delivered refrigerators. He worked at the post office.
Park department.
He also worked night school with teaching immigrants history or English, and I think that was. Oh, and he also did summer camp for the children.
He was good with directions, but a couple times I guess he wasn't. In the Death Valley and the other place,
Oregon.
Oregon.
Well, he just thought he could get through places that wasn't on the map.
But otherwise, he was pretty good with directions. Something working for the post office.
And toward the end, when he was ready to die, he would ask me if we were going to a doctor, which way to go. He was having trouble how to go from the house to the doctor.
Huh.
He would go over it in his mind and ask me if that was right.
I used to write notes in his wallet.
Well, Poppy
He'd carry
did
around
too.
and toothpicks.
Yeah, Poppy did that too.
Yeah.
Left a lot of notes.
Now, Mama Rourke, she passed away soon after that picture, didn't she?
I think so.
She was 98,
Yeah, she was 98.
and then Mama Parrish.
She died in Fort Lauderdale.
mm,
She had cancer of the colon.
Was Rourke and Parrish a last name or first name?
That's her last name. Parrish is a last name too.
Mama was trying to look at it. Mom.
What were their first names, Mama?
Tilly Rourke, O'Rourke, and I think it was O-R-O-U. I'm not sure the rest of it. Parrish, she was Ella.
Ella?
Ella.
E-L-L-A?
And then Poppy was Russell Philman, family name.
Also known as Bus.
Yes. Edna called him Bus.
What was that in his mill?
See how young, Pop,
Yeah.
how young he looks? And that was right after Russ was born. And then we moved to Florida right away.
So Dad would have been 30 there.
And Mama Parish
About
came
30.
down later. After she,
Where was that picture taken, do you know?
in their apartment, Mama Parish's apartment in
He's about
Philadelphia.
30 there.
Papa was 30 when Russ was
In
born?
that picture, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he was. He was
Yes.
when he was married. Or about
The age when Bill was,
Yeah, when Russ was
He
born.
was
he
42 when I was born, and Russ was 12 years younger than me, older than me.
how old Poppy?
Dad is 30 in that picture.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He was 28 when he got married, like you,
Yeah, I was 23 and 28,
and
yeah.
I was 23.
Yeah, we're the same age difference.
Yeah,
I remember you telling me that at our wedding.
yeah.
And I also remember you telling me how you wore your fancy nightgown on the nights,
Yes.
some
Right.
nights, and you wore your not so fancy nightgown on other nights.
That's right. I had it all figured out. What days were you had to watch?
Yeah.
You didn't keep track of that. You also told Debbie something interesting on the
We didn't
rehearsal
have
dinner
birth
night.
control pills.
I remember telling you it worked out
I remember
real well
that.
for you. You had 5 kids. That was full.
I think she had a few Jamesons that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave you some advice too, but I'm not gonna repeat.
Well, you
it.
told Bill to keep his tools to himself.
Right. Well, I also told you two something, but I can't say it here.
Then you told Debbie.
Please don't.
You don't need to repeat that.
Off camera.
Well, thank you, Mama.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Mother.
Yeah.
Right.
We love you, Mama.
Love you very much.
Don't fall
Somebody
over.
put it right through that window.
Dad, did you know that Marissa thought that a little kid in Honduras cut your hair? And that...
I thought you cut it yourself.
Number one bowl?
With no mirror.
Bob's the next one we have to interview.
That's right.
My hair 3 weeks ago was pretty long and bushy.
Delicious.
And there's coffee there too.
We do have coffee. We
Right.
have rice pudding. We have about 6 different kinds of ice cream.
I love you too.
Somebody has a cup back here.
I hope someday you have a nice family.
Love you, Mama.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all
Yeah.
of that. That was
Oh, good. I may think of some other things later.
Okay. I think she liked that more than she thought she would.
Yeah.
Wow.
You tired?
You have a big family.
Oh, who?